Hi friends, this is Teah Woodward from Stamp with Teah, and tonight I am going to demonstrate to you how to make some cards that are related to my faith. So I'm participating in the Multicultural Day of Stamping, and I'm really excited that I was given this opportunity to do this. So I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And when I saw the handsomely suited and suit and tie die set, I knew instantly what I wanted to make with this set. I wanted to make some missionary cards. I wanted to make some baptismal cards. And I wanted to make a card for somebody that was getting sealed. And I can't wait to show you what I came up with. So we have several different sayings or phrases that get used at our church. And through Stephanie, we were able to make some printables that will be available to you and that you will be able to print off and use in these types of cards if you so desired. I couldn't be more excited to be able to share the love that I have of my faith through crafting. Really excited that I get to mix those two things together and do a little demonstration for you. So I'm going to turn the camera around. I will attempt to give some measurements as I go along, and I will also name off what items I have used while I've been making these things. So I am going to switch my camera around. And there we go. So you can see here, I've made two cards for missionaries that are returning in this case. This one has a badge that says elder, and this one has a badge that says sister. And on the inside of these cards, they say mission accomplished. We also have in the printable, if you wanted to make a card for a missionary that was about to leave, we have a saying that is go and gather Israel. And that could easily be put on the inside of the same card. So I'm going to demonstrate these cards to you, and then I'm going to show you a couple of other cards that, that I've made that you could make with this set. So let's get started. Set these here for reference sake. Now, for the sake of time, I did already cut out all of the pieces. So I fussy cutted out my badge, and I will show you what the dies look like to make these various pieces. Got a tie and a shirt and a knot, and some buttons and a welt. So this card is 11 by 4 1/4, and it's scored at 5 1/2. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to burnish with a clean bone folder. Going to burnish my 5 1/2. And I'm seeing a couple little burrs on my paper here that I didn't spot before. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a rubber eraser that I can use to remove those. I've just got a couple little fuzzies here along the side, and I have a rubber eraser, and those come off really nicely with that. It must be time to change my blade on my cutter. Okay, so this is our card base. I'm going to set that aside. For these pieces here, this is what our die set looks like. And I actually didn't even use the stamps at all. I've only used the dies. And again, these are from the suit and tie dies. This suit looking material or paper came from the In Good Taste Designer Series paper. So I cut this piece of paper in the exact same size as the outside of my card. So this was the 4¼ by 5½. I placed this die on it and cut out the notch. And then with this die, I cut out the lapel. Put these back here. Now, I did run these through a texture, an embossing folder to give it a little bit more texture. This first one, I did not. This one is flat and it looks good, but I think that once I ran it through the texture, it just gives it a little bit more depth. So I'm happy that I did that. I haven't found a really clean way of doing this, but I am, I'm just gonna do this the way that I did it, and hopefully this will work for you as well. So I'm just gonna run a very small bead of, I like to use the multi-purpose adhesive, the Tombow glue. That's my favorite. I like it because it gives me a little bit of time to wiggle to get things in position. And I'm going to smooth that out and make sure I don't have any. If it looks like it's going on rough, it's because, like I mentioned, I used a texture on the paper. There we go. And now I'm just going to lay these lapels directly on, and I'm going to line up the bottom. Let's see here. Actually, I guess I'm going to start with lining up the top. Just like that. I'm lining up those edges. And there we go. Whoops. There we go. And I'm going to let that dry for just a minute. And then I'm going to, again, I didn't do that on this card, but on another card that I'm going to show you, I learned that if I use the bone folder underneath the edge of this lapel and kind of curl it up slightly, it gives it a little bit of depth. While I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to go ahead and put the welt on. The welt actually ends up getting covered by the badge, but I'm okay with that. I feel better just knowing that I put it on. When our missionaries go on their mission, they can be gone anywhere from 1.5 to 2 years. Depends on just what they were assigned, maybe where they're going and that sort of thing. Okay, so I've got the welt that I've put on right here. I'm going to come back in here with my bone folder, and I'm going to, because I only applied that lip of glue right to the V edge here, so I can actually bring my bone folder in and just press it a little bit against my thumb. I'm not trying to curl it, I'm just trying to lift it just a little bit. Can you see that? This one side is actually, maybe if I bring this closer to my camera, you can see that this side is lifted up just slightly. And here we go. I'm not trying to put in like real curls or anything. I'm just trying to give it a little bit of body. There we go. All right. I am going to go ahead and glue this right down because I found that it was easier to apply my shirt if I had this already, if it was easier to align my shirt collar if I already had the jacket glued down. So in this case, oh, looks like I got my lapel a little bit crooked, but we're going to roll with it because no one will ever see it. I'm going to glue across the top of the shoulders, down the side, across the bottom, up the other side, and across the top shoulder. I am not going to glue down the V, and you'll see why in a minute. It's because I have to have somewhere to put the necktie. Move this shirt collar out of the way. And I'm going to line up, because remember, we cut this base piece of paper the same size as our card front. And get that all wiggled right into place. We've matched at the top and the sides. This one side is just right now it's starting to look right. Okay, so we've got all of those in place. I want a little bit more of a curl over here. Here we go. Excuse me. Excuse me. All right. So next, okay, a drink of water is going to be appropriate here. All right, this is our shirt collar. And this widest part of the shirt collar gets lined up here at the top of the card, just like that. And our necktie is going to come out from underneath here. So I am doing two things. I played with this a couple of different ways. I wanted a little bit of volume underneath the collar because we all know that once we put a necktie underneath a shirt, it actually lifts it up away from the body a bit, right? So I've got some dimensionals in here to lift that away. But I wanted to make sure that the edge of my collar up here, it was actually laid down and flat or flush with the base of the card. So I'm actually going to put just a small bead of glue, my Tombow, I am going to remove my dimensional backers. And I used the small dimensionals here. I didn't use the big ones. And now I'm going to line up my shirt collar. And because I've got a dimensional, it's stuck prematurely. There we go. And same thing on this side. There we go. There we go. All right. And I'm going to curl these tips just a little bit. I want them to fold down a little bit. Here we are. Okay. And next, we're going to position this tie. And this, you'll see why now I didn't want to put glue on that inside V. It's because I need to be able to shove this tie down inside of there. And I am going to glue the tie flat down because I have a separate knot that I'm going to apply over the top. And that will have a dimensional under it. So that will give us the volume that we need for the necktie knot. And I'm going to slip this in here ever so carefully because I do have adhesive on the back. And I'm going to position my, try to get it nice and centered. This is why I like to use the Tombow, is it gives me just a little bit of time to get things positioned before it makes it too hard to move. And then here is our knot. I'm going to use another small dimensional. You were almost done with this first card. Take that little backer off. I didn't see where the backer went. Oh, there it is, stuck to my finger. It's warm here, and my hands, even though I keep washing them, are feeling rather sticky because of the perspiration. There we go. So you see we've got a little bit of volume under on that tie, the knot of the tie. Right, so all we have left to put on the front of this card is the badge and some buttons here at the front. So I'm going to grab I like to use my Pick Me tool. And these buttons, these are from the dies as well. So little orbs here. And there is a right and a wrong side. The right side has the little circle of like a button, and it looks like it's got a couple of little stitch marks. The other side does not have that. You only need a couple of buttons here. There's one. So make sure again that I've got the right side, and I do. And so I'm placing these right on my mini glue dots because they just happen to be the right size. And then I'm picking them up. So the clay side of the Pick Me tool picks up gems, picks up any kind of small item, and helps you position them easily. So there we are with our general little suit jacket and tie and collar. And I'm going to use a couple of dimensionals for this badge. I'm actually going to use the bigger dimensionals. I fussy cut this, this badge. Now, the real badge would say the elder's name on it. And obviously I wasn't going to put somebody's name on here. So it just says elder, and then the females says sister on it. So now we've got the front of the card is done. We're going to adhere this to the front of the card, and we did already burnish the top of our fold here. I'm going to use my Tombow glue because I like to be able to fuss around and make sure it all fits. It's just so. So we're square up at the top and down the sides and across the bottom. So there's our card, and we just need to put the sentiment on the inside. So these are what the printables look like for my demonstration, and we are going to use, here's a mission accomplished and here's a mission accomplished. I actually have some over here that I've already been cutting on, so I'm going to grab that and pull up my cutter here real quick, move this to one side. Because I did not pre-cut the sentiment. And we're going to put the sentiment on the inside of the card. So I'm just going to cut this down just a little bit. And we have it in a couple of different fonts. So that makes it nice. All right. Again, I'm going to use my Tombow glue. Actually, here I could go ahead and just use my Stampin' Seal. And I know this is overkill. I'm using the Stampin' Seal Plus. I happen to prefer the Plus over the regular seal. So mission accomplished. I'm just going to glue that right down. And there, our first card is done. What do you think? I like it better. See, this one has got a flat texture, and this one actually has a little bit of texture, so you can see it's got more body to it like real fabric does. That's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to set that to one side, and we are going to now replicate the sister missionary. And she has a few more pieces because I did a button-down blouse for her. I'm going to go ahead and start with burnishing the card base. And I see this one has a little bit of fuzzies on it as well. So I'll do the same thing and remove those with my rubber eraser. There we go. That looks better. I did the same thing with this piece. I used this V cut, this V die, did not add a lapel. So I made this more like a cardigan. I ran this through a textured embossing folder as well. Again, I used the Tasteful Textiles embossing folder to create just this kind of nubby feel. All right, we're working with the same dimensions. So we're working, the card is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So this card that layers on top is the same dimensions. This piece of paper was cut in the same dimension as well before I took out that V cut, or used that die to cut this out. And then I ran it through the texturizer after that. I did it in opposite, and it really eliminated a lot of my texture. So I do recommend using the die first and then using the embossing folder. Now, in this case, I am going to go ahead and adhere this down, and I'm going to do it the same way that I did that jacket. I'm going to apply the adhesive across the top of the shoulders, down the side, across the bottom, just like that. Okay. So my adhesive. And my husband, majority of his nephews and some of his nieces have all gone on missions. So that has been fun for me to witness and be a part of, them coming and going and following all their letters while they're gone. And it's really a very cool process and such a growth opportunity and a huge commitment. All right, so we have the cardigan down. Next, I'm going to apply the shirt front, but I need to kind of get, or the shirt placket. But before I do, you can see that the placket is a little bit too long because I don't go all the way up to the top. You see, I need to end it here at the base of the collar. So I'm going to have to cut some of this off. And I've got that collar upside down. So I just want to make sure I eyeball this nicely, get this nice and in this one, I'm not as worried about putting that volume underneath because she's not wearing a tie in this particular card. She could, but she's not. So I want to make sure that I can really end anywhere underneath this cardigan. So I am going to, where's my scissors? Here we go. I'm just going to cut that off just like that. Toss the extra. Now I'm going to put some adhesive on the back of this, and there we are. And this is where I really want to make sure I'm using the liquid glue, because I want to make sure I've got time to fuss and put this in the correct place, because I haven't attached my collar yet, right? So I want to make sure that okay. Here we go. I want to make sure I'm also straight. I had to make this card a few times yesterday because I did not get it straight. There we go. I think that's going to be about right. Whoops, dropped it. So I've got a little bit of glue showing at the top there, but I'm okay with that because I have an eraser that I can remove that with if it still shows when it's dry. Okay, I'm going to, again, put some adhesive up here across the top, and I'm going to go ahead and put some down the center of that V. I don't have to go all the way down to the bottom of the V, but, and I feel like I got that glue a little thick. There we go. I'm going to line this up, and in this case, I have that collar overlapping that sweater just a little bit. Okay, come on. Just a little bit, like that. All right. Yeah, this eraser is really good for if you have any adhesive. It's easier once it's dry than if it's wet, but once it's dry, you can use this eraser and it'll lift the adhesive right off the paper without damaging anything. So, excuse me, I did cut out the buttons. So yesterday I used the paper buttons down the front of the blouse and I thought it was too plain. So I ended up using the Elegant Faceted Gems, the white, for the buttons down the front. And I'm going to do that again over here. I love these gems. All right, so I believe I used the biggest size. Yes, I did. So I'm going to put the first one right up there. Whoops. My hands are so sticky from being warm. Oh, and you know what? That first one is off color because I tried coloring it. I better toss that right now before I ruin a project. So you can color these gems. I've done it many times, but the particular color that I tried using on it yesterday didn't work. I was trying to use pale papaya, and it just my blender pen it just didn't show. So I ended up not using it. There we go. And this one is just slightly off center, and that'll drive me crazy until I get it right. There we go. There we go, there we go. All right, so use the clay end of your Pick Me tool to pick up the gem and place it in where you want it. So you just slide it right off of that little plastic piece. It's right here. And those look approximately spaced well. Approximately. And they're centered from side to side. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. Now, yesterday I used paper pink buttons here, but I think today I might, well, those are too blingy, I think. Maybe I'll use these white ones. I didn't cut the pink ones. Yeah, I'll use these white paper buttons that I had already cut out. So where did here they are. I am going to, again, apply the buttons using the mini glue dots. And I think this cardigan's going to end up with 3 buttons. Maybe. And I'm just using the tip of my Pick Me tool to, there was a little bit of the glue dot was showing on the side, and I just used this tip to smooth it out and hide it a bit. and our third button. Then I am going to take our badge, so we don't need these other two buttons, and I'm done with these gems. And I am going to use a couple of dimensionals on the back. And get her badge going the right direction. I had it upside down there a second ago. That would have not been good. And there we go. We have a badge. So now we're going to adhere this to the front of this card. I put my glue down in a different place every time, so I have to search for it each time. There we go. And because this is the exact same dimension as the front of the card base that we cut, we can just line up all of our edges. So the only difference in these two cards is that yesterday I chose pink buttons and today I chose white buttons for the cardigan. Everything else is the same. Let's get ourselves a sentiment to put on the inside. And I have some cut over here. I didn't punch them yet, but I could punch it, or I could just cut it. I'm going to cut it because my punches are out of reach. I didn't plan that as well as I would have liked, but. So our missionaries, not only do they, when they travel, not only do they share the gospel, but they serve and help others as needed. So for instance, if somebody needs help moving, they will do that, or they will do just about anything that's needed. If you need help, that's what they're there for, is to help and to serve others. So they, gosh, I know that here locally, some of our missionaries have helped plant trees for people that needed help on a farm, or, whoops, and I just dropped my adhesive. So yeah, they'll do all kinds of things, and hopefully they will get to share the gospel with those that they are assisting. But if not, that's okay too. All right, I'm going to show you now. Ooh, I see a little bit of adhesive sticking out down here. This is the first card. Okay, so here's my sister missionary cards. What do you think? You see those? And here's our elder cards. I like them. So these are some examples of cards that you could make for missionaries that are going on, returning from a mission. One of the sentiments, like I mentioned before, that you could use if somebody's going on a mission and you wanted to give them a card is somewhere on here. We have Go and Gather Israel. So that would be another option for somebody that's having a going away party. Another set of cards that I made were for baptism. And in our church, when you turn 8, you have the opportunity to make that decision for yourself if you wish to be baptized. And so we call that Great to be 8. It's so great to be 8 because you get to choose the rite, and that's what CTR means. So little girls tend to, they don't always, but they tend to wear a white dress, but they're not required to. And so I kind of replicated a little white dress here with a little bit of embossing folder. With this, I use the ornate floral embossing folder, and I used one of the circle dies to cut out a little round neckline. And then I used the pearl basic gems. And then I used the strawberry builder punch. There's a little flower in that punch. And so I put a little pearl in the middle of it. And then I used our sentiment here. It's great to be 8 on the front. And on the inside, I said, choose the right. And we like to say, choose the right. We like to remind ourselves that we have the opportunity to make our decisions. You know, we have an agency. Our agency allows us to choose our actions, and hopefully we're choosing the right actions. So we call that choose the right. So here on the boy card, I used CTR. This is something that sometimes you'll see on a little ring that adults or children can buy at the bookstore. There's necklaces and such too. And then on the inside here, I used the sentiment, choose the right. So that's what I picked for baptism cards. And then I wanted to make a card for a sealing. And sealing is where we get married in the temple. And we wear all white. And so here I made a white man's suit and a white women's dress. And then on the inside, the sentiment says, sealed in holiness for all time and eternity. And for this, so on this embossing folder to create texture, so it wasn't just flat white paper, I used the Tasteful Textiles. And this one, I used the Parisian Flourish embossing folder. Again, here I used the Strawberry Builder Punch. Oh, the ribbon on these 2 cards is the white crinkle ribbon. And yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward. These were all very easy to make. And as you saw, they were very quick to make. What do you think? Do you like that? I hope you do. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share with you. This means a lot to me. I love to be creative. I love to create. I love art of all kinds. And I'm really glad that I had an opportunity to share with you today just a glimpse of my church through crafting. Thank you for joining me.